A human girl pets the Zarkoth, and the galaxy trembles. The Galactic Council chamber on Nexus 7 erupts into pandemonium. Alien dignitaries leap from their seats, mandibles clicking and tentacles flailing in shock. At the center of the commotion stands Lily Chen, a young human girl, her small hand resting on the scaled hide of the Zarkoth, a towering, six-limbed monstrosity feared across the cosmos. Dennis Walker, Earth's lead diplomat, watches in stunned silence as the apex predator, known for its deadly venomous spines and unparalleled ferocity, responds to Lily's touch with a low, rumbling purr. The sound sends tremors through the council chamber's crystalline floor. Impossible! The Voxari delegation's leader, Rhea, pushes through the crowd. Her blue skin pulses with agitated bioluminescent patterns, casting an eerie glow on her striking features. She fixes Dennis with a piercing gaze. How have you humans tamed our sacred beast? Dennis opens his mouth, but no words come. He's as baffled as the rest. The Zarkoth, revered as a living god by the Voxari, now nuzzles against Lily's palm like an oversized house cat. The Supreme Arbiter, a towering figure of swirling energy, contained within an ornate exosuit, raises its arms. Silence! The chamber stills. This unprecedented event demands immediate investigation. The human ability to pacify the Zarkoth poses potential threats to our cosmic order. Murmurs of agreement ripple through the assembly. Dennis feels the weight of countless alien eyes upon him. He recognizes the precarious position humanity now faces. Their future among the stars hangs in the balance. Rhea steps forward, her voice tinged with both outrage and fascination. We demand sanctions against Earth. This desecration of our most sacred being cannot go unpunished. Yet as she speaks, her gaze flicks back to Dennis, curiosity warring with indignation. The Supreme Arbiter nods. A special committee will be formed to study the humans. Dennis Walker and the child Lily Chen will remain on Nexus 7 for observation. Dennis's heart sinks, stranded on an alien station, surrounded by suspicious species, with humanity's fate resting on his shoulders. He glances at Rhea, surprised to find her still watching him. Their eyes lock, and an unexpected spark of attraction flares between them. As the council chamber descends once more into heated debate, Dennis steels himself for the challenges ahead. He must navigate this political minefield, unravel the mystery of Lily's connection to the Zarkoth, and grapple with his growing feelings for a woman whose people may soon be at war with his own. The fate of humanity now rests on a diplomat's wit, a child's gentle touch, and the purr of a monster that shook the stars. As the council chamber erupted into a cacophony of alien voices, Dennis felt a firm grip on his arm. He turned to find a Nexian security officer, its gelatinous form pulsing with iridescent colors. Mr. Walker, you and the child will come with me, it burbled through a translator. Dennis nodded, his mind racing. He gently took Lily's hand, guiding her away from the Zarkoth. The creature let out a low, mournful sound as they separated, sending another ripple of unease through the assembled dignitaries. They were led through winding corridors of shimmering metal and pulsing biolights. The station's architecture was a dizzying blend of countless alien aesthetics, each turn revealing new wonders that Dennis barely had time to process. Finally, they arrived at a door that irised open, revealing a spacious suite. The room was a hodgepodge of alien and human elements, a clear attempt to create a hospitable environment for Earth's representatives. You will remain here for the duration of the observation period, the Nexian officer informed them. Your needs will be attended to, but you are not to leave without authorization. As the door sealed behind them, Dennis sank into a chair that seemed to mold itself to his body. Lily explored the room with wide-eyed curiosity, seemingly unfazed by their predicament. Mr. Walker? She asked, her small voice filled with uncertainty. Are we in trouble? Dennis managed a reassuring smile. No, Lily, we're just special guests for a while. Everything will be okay. He hoped he wasn't lying. Days blurred together as Dennis and Lily underwent a battery of tests. Alien scientists of various species poked, prodded, and scanned them with devices beyond human comprehension. Dennis did his best to cooperate, knowing that humanity's future might depend on the results. During one particularly grueling session, Dennis found himself face-to-face with a Voxari scientist. Her blue skin shimmered with bioluminescent patterns that seemed to pulse in time with her thoughts. "Fascinating," she murmured, studying a holographic display of Dennis's DNA. "There's a sequence here. I've never seen anything like it." "Is that good or bad?" Dennis asked, trying to keep the nervousness out of his voice. The Voxari, Dr. Zixalar, according to her name tag, tilted her head, antennae twitching. "It could explain your ability to interact safely with the Zarkoth. This genetic marker, it's unique, potentially revolutionary." Dennis absorbed this information, his heart pounding with the implications. Before he could ask more questions, Dr. Zixalar was ushered out by other researchers, leaving him alone with his thoughts. As the days wore on, Dennis found an unexpected source of comfort in his regular visits from Rhea, the Voxari diplomat. What began as tense, formal exchanges gradually evolved into something warmer. "Tell me about Earth," Rhea asked one evening, her luminous eyes fixed on Dennis with genuine curiosity. "Your world seems so diverse." Dennis smiled, launching into stories of Earth's varied landscapes and cultures. He found himself opening up, sharing personal anecdotes and childhood memories. In turn, Rhea spoke of Voxari customs, their deep spiritual connection to the Zarkoth, and the intricacies of their bioluminescent communication. As they talked, Dennis couldn't help but notice the way Rhea's skin pulsed with subtle patterns of light. He wondered if it was a sign of emotion, perhaps mirroring the growing warmth between them. Their conversations became a bright spot in Dennis's otherwise stressful days. He found himself looking forward to Rhea's visits, anticipation building each time he heard her distinctive gait approaching his door. Meanwhile, reports about Lily's remarkable abilities with alien creatures filtered through to Dennis. The young girl seemed to possess an innate talent for calming even the most aggressive species. Scientists were baffled, and Dennis couldn't help but wonder if it was connected to the genetic marker Dr. Zixalar had discovered. The relative calm of their observation period was shattered one cycle when alarms blared throughout Nexus 7. Dennis jolted awake, his heart racing as the room's lighting shifted to an ominous red. "Emergency protocols engaged," an AI voice announced. "Life support systems compromised. Evacuate to designated safe zones immediately." Panic gripped Dennis as he realized the gravity of the situation. He rushed to the door, only to find it sealed tight. Trapped, he pounded on the unyielding surface, desperate for a way out. Suddenly, the door slid open, revealing Rhea. Her skin pulsed with urgent patterns. "Dennis, we need your help. A group of extremists has sabotaged the station's core systems. Our security teams are overwhelmed." Without hesitation, Dennis followed Rhea through the chaos-filled corridors. Aliens of all species rushed past, their faces etched with fear. As they reached a central control hub, Dennis saw the extent of the damage. Holographic displays showed cascading failures across multiple systems. Nexus 7's security chief, a hulking Krexnar, barked orders in a language Dennis couldn't understand. "What can I do?" Dennis asked, surveying the alien technology before him. Rhea pointed to a console. "Our systems are in lockdown. We need a fresh perspective, someone who can think outside our parameters. Can you find a way to bypass the saboteurs' overrides?" Dennis took a deep breath, focusing on the task at hand. He began to work, his fingers flying over unfamiliar controls, as he pieced together the logic of the alien systems. Time seemed to stretch as he immersed himself in the challenge, acutely aware of the lives hanging in the balance. Finally, with a triumphant cry, Dennis cracked the code. Life support systems came back online, and the station's defenses reactivated. Security teams quickly subdued the remaining saboteurs. In the aftermath, Dennis found himself the center of attention. Aliens from various species approached him, offering thanks and expressions of newfound respect. The Supreme Arbiter himself commended Dennis's quick thinking and adaptability. As the crisis subsided, Dennis received a summons to the Arbiter's chambers. His heart raced as he contemplated what this could mean for humanity's future. He caught Rhea's eye across the room, and a wordless understanding passed between them. Whatever came next, they would face it together. With a deep breath, Dennis stepped forward, ready to meet his destiny and shape the future of human-alien relations. As Dennis stepped into the Arbiter's chambers, he felt the weight of humanity's future on his shoulders. The cavernous room buzzed with tension, alien dignitaries from across the galaxy watching his every move. The Supreme Arbiter's exosuit hummed softly as it turned to face him. "Dennis Walker," the Arbiter's synthesized voice echoed, "recent events have forced us to reevaluate humanity's place in the galactic community. We have decided to appoint you as Earth's ambassador for a new cultural exchange program." Dennis blinked, caught off guard by this unexpected turn. I'm honored, Your Excellency, but I'm not sure I'm qualified for such a position." The Arbiter's exosuit shimmered. "Your actions during the recent crisis have proven your worth. You will work closely with Rhea, the Voxari representative, to foster understanding between our peoples." At the mention of Rhea's name, Dennis felt a flutter in his chest. He glanced across the chamber, meeting her luminous eyes. A subtle pattern of light pulsed across her blue skin, and he wondered if it mirrored the quickening of his own heartbeat. In the days that followed, Dennis found himself thrust into a whirlwind of diplomatic meetings and cultural briefings. He and Rhea spent long hours together, ostensibly discussing the intricacies of human-alien relations. But as time passed, their conversations grew more personal, charged with an undercurrent of attraction neither could ignore. One evening, they met in a private conference room overlooking the shimmering expanse of Nexus 7's central hub. Dennis leaned against the viewport, watching the ebb and flow of alien life below. "It's overwhelming sometimes," he said softly, "the sheer diversity of life out here." Rhea moved closer, her bioluminescent patterns shifting in mesmerizing waves. "And yet, we find common ground where we least expect it." Their eyes met, and the air between them seemed to crackle with electricity. Dennis felt drawn to her, captivated by the alien beauty of her features. Before he could second-guess himself, he leaned in, pressing his lips against hers. The kiss was unlike anything he had experienced before. Rhea's skin tingled against his, sending shivers down his spine. Her luminescence flared brightly, bathing them both in a soft, otherworldly glow. As they broke apart, breathing heavily, Dennis saw a mix of wonder and desire in Rhea's eyes. "I've never," she began. "Neither have I," Dennis admitted, "but I want to." What followed was a passionate exploration of their differences and similarities. Their bodies intertwined, a bridge between species, defying centuries of isolation and mistrust. In the afterglow, Dennis marveled at the softness of Rhea's skin, tracing the patterns of light that danced across her form. Their blissful bubble burst the next day when news of their liaison reached the Galactic Council. Dennis was summoned to an emergency session, facing a sea of angry and confused alien faces. "This is unprecedented," a Krexnar representative bellowed. "The potential for genetic contamination—" "Contamination?" Dennis interrupted, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "Or opportunity for greater understanding?" Before the debate could escalate further, Dr. Zixlar burst into the chamber, her antennae quivering with excitement. "Esteemed council members, I've made a breakthrough." She activated a holographic display showing complex genetic structures. Humans possess a unique protein in their skin cells that mimics the pheromones of various species. This explains their ability to safely interact with creatures like the Zarkoth. The chamber erupted into chaos, some council members seeing the potential for peaceful coexistence, others fearing human domination. Amidst the uproar, Dennis noticed a group of humans entering the chamber, led by a woman whose features reminded him of Lily. "Dr. Emily Chen," she introduced herself, her voice cutting through the noise. "I'm here with a team of Earth's top scientists to support our ambassador and study alien technologies." As Dr. Chen began to outline her proposals for scientific collaboration, a commotion at the chamber's entrance drew everyone's attention. A group of Voxari extremists burst in, weapons raised. "Death to the human defilers!" one of them screamed, firing wildly. Dennis reacted instinctively, tackling Rhea to the ground as energy blasts sizzled overhead. Alien security forces rushed to confront the attackers, but not before several bystanders were hit, including Lily. In the chaotic aftermath, Dennis took charge, coordinating with alien security to secure the chamber and tend to the wounded. He found himself working alongside Dr. Chen, who fought desperately to save her daughter's life using a combination of human and alien medical techniques. As the dust settled, Dennis stood before the Galactic Council once more, his commitment strengthened by the day's events. He took a deep breath, knowing that his next words would shape the future of human-alien relations. "Esteemed council members," he began, his voice ringing clear in the hushed chamber. "Today's events have shown both the challenges and the potential of our integration into galactic society. It's time for full disclosure of our unique genetic attributes. We must approach this new era with caution, wisdom, and above all, unity." The chamber fell silent as Dennis concluded his impassioned speech. The weight of his words hung in the air, resonating with both human and alien representatives. After a tense moment, the Supreme Arbiter's exosuit hummed to life. "Ambassador Walker, your words carry great significance. The Council has deliberated, and we have reached a decision. Earth will be granted probationary status within the galactic community." A collective gasp rippled through the chamber. Dennis felt a mix of relief and apprehension wash over him. He glanced at Rhea, whose bioluminescent patterns pulsed with what he now recognized as excitement. In the days that followed, Dennis found himself thrust into an unprecedented role as the primary liaison between humanity and the galactic community. The Council wasted no time in establishing a new diplomatic outpost on Earth, selecting a remote island in the Pacific Ocean as its location. Dennis stood on the pristine beach, watching as alien crafts descended from the sky, carrying materials and personnel. The air hummed with energy as Voxari engineers used gravitational manipulation devices to effortlessly move massive building components into place. "It's really happening," Rhea said, appearing at his side. Her blue skin shimmered in the sunlight, creating a mesmerizing display. Dennis nodded, still in awe of the rapid progress. "I never imagined I'd be overseeing something like this." As the weeks passed, Dennis and Rhea worked tirelessly to coordinate the construction efforts. They spent long hours poring over holographic blueprints, mediating disputes between human and alien workers, and ensuring that the facility met the needs of all species involved. One evening, as they watched the sunset over the partially completed outpost, Rhea turned to Dennis. "There's something different about you," she said, her luminous eyes studying his face intently. Dennis felt a flutter in his chest. "What do you mean?" Rhea's skin pulsed with a pattern he had come to associate with affection. "Your aura, it's changed. It's almost as if—" Before she could finish, an urgent communication interrupted them. Dr. Emily Chen's holographic form materialized before them, her expression a mixture of excitement and concern. "Dennis, Rhea, I need you both in my lab immediately. I've made a discovery that could change everything." They rushed to Dr. Chen's makeshift laboratory, nestled within the heart of the growing outpost. Inside, they found Emily hunched over a complex array of alien and human medical equipment. "What's going on, Dr. Chen?" Dennis asked, noting the tension in her posture. Emily straightened up, her eyes gleaming with the fervor of scientific breakthrough. "I've been continuing my research on human-alien genetic compatibility, and I've found something extraordinary." She activated a holographic display showing intricate DNA structures. Human DNA can potentially combine with Voxari genetic material. The implications are, well, they're staggering. Dennis and Rhea exchanged a look of shock and wonder. The possibility of viable interspecies offspring had never crossed their minds. "How is this possible?" Rhea asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Emily launched into a detailed explanation, her words tumbling out in a rush of scientific jargon. Dennis struggled to keep up, but he grasped the magnitude of the discovery. As they discussed the potential ramifications, an alert sounded throughout the facility. Dennis's communicator crackled to life, delivering a message that made his blood run cold. "Ambassador Walker, we have a situation. The news of human Voxari compatibility has leaked to the public. Media outlets across Earth and the galaxy are reporting on it. We're facing a potential diplomatic crisis." Dennis felt the weight of responsibility settle heavily on his shoulders. He looked at Rhea, seeing his own mix of emotions reflected in her luminous eyes. "We need to get ahead of this," he said, his mind already racing with potential strategies. "Dr. Chen, prepare a detailed report for the Galactic Council. Rhea, we need to coordinate with both human and alien media outlets to control the narrative." As they sprang into action, Dennis couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of a much larger challenge. The future of human-alien relations hung in the balance, and he found himself at the center of a storm that threatened to reshape the very fabric of galactic society. In the coming days, Dennis and Rhea worked tirelessly to manage the fallout from the genetic compatibility revelation. They coordinated press conferences, fielded questions from journalists of various species, and attempted to quell the growing unrest among conservative factions on both sides. During a rare moment of respite, Dennis and Rhea found themselves alone in his office, overlooking the bustling construction site of the diplomatic outpost. The setting sun cast a golden glow over the alien architecture, creating a surreal landscape. "I never expected any of this when I first set foot on Nexus 7, Dennis said, his voice tinged with a mix of exhaustion and wonder. Rhea moved closer, her bioluminescent patterns shifting in a way that Dennis had come to recognize as concern. "Are you having second thoughts about your role in all of this?" Dennis turned to face her, struck once again by the alien beauty of her features. "No, not at all. It's just overwhelming sometimes, the weight of it all." Their eyes met, and Dennis felt the familiar pull of attraction. Without thinking, he reached out, his fingers gently tracing the patterns of light on Rhea's arm. She shivered at his touch, her skin flaring brightly. "Dennis," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "We should be careful. Our relationship, it's becoming increasingly difficult to hide." He nodded, knowing she was right but unable to pull away. "I know, but I can't help how I feel about you, Rhea. You've become more than just a colleague or a friend to me." As they stood there, caught in a moment of unspoken desire, an alarm blared throughout the facility. Dennis's communication device crackled to life, delivering a message that shattered their intimate moment. "Ambassador Walker, we have a security breach. A group of human extremists has infiltrated the outpost. They're armed with stolen alien technology and are heading for the main control center." Dennis snapped into action, his training kicking in. "Rhea, we need to get to the secure bunker. Alert the security team and initiate lockdown procedures." As they raced through the corridors, the sounds of conflict echoed around them. Energy weapons discharged, and the acrid smell of ozone filled the air. They rounded a corner and came face to face with a group of masked intruders. "There they are!" one of the extremists shouted, raising a weapon that pulsed with alien energy. Dennis reacted instinctively, pushing Rhea behind a support column as energy blasts sizzled past them. He grabbed a nearby fire suppression device, using it to create a temporary smokescreen. "This way!" he shouted, leading Rhea down a maintenance shaft. They descended deeper into the facility, the sounds of battle growing more distant. Finally, they reached the entrance to the secure bunker. Dennis placed his hand on the biometric scanner, and the heavy doors slid open with a hiss. As they sealed themselves inside, the gravity of the situation began to sink in. They were trapped, cut off from the rest of the outpost, with no way of knowing how the battle above was unfolding. Rhea's skin pulsed with agitated patterns. "Dennis, what if they breach the bunker? What if—" He took her hands in his, meeting her gaze steadily. "We'll face whatever comes together. Right now, we need to focus on contacting the Galactic Council and coordinating a response." As Dennis began to activate the bunker's communication systems, he couldn't help but wonder what this attack would mean for Earth's fragile position in the galactic community. The future of human-alien relations hung by a thread, and he found himself at the center of a storm that threatened to unravel everything they had worked so hard to build. Suddenly, the bunker's communication system crackled to life, and a familiar voice filled the room. "Ambassador Walker, this is Commander Zach Savor of the Galactic Peacekeeping Force. We've secured the outpost and neutralized the extremist threat. You're clear to exit the bunker." Dennis and Rhea exchanged relieved glances before making their way back to the surface. The scene that greeted them was one of controlled chaos, alien peacekeepers efficiently coordinating with human security forces to restore order. Commander Zaxivor, a towering Voxari with battle-scarred exoskeletal plates, approached them. "Ambassador, we need to debrief you immediately. The Galactic Council is demanding answers." In the days that followed, Dennis and Rhea found themselves under intense scrutiny. They spent hours in meetings with both human and alien authorities, recounting the attack and defending their actions. The pressure was relentless, and Dennis could feel the weight of Earth's fragile position in the galactic community bearing down on him. 2 weeks after the attack, Dennis received a summons that made his heart sink. "Ambassador Walker and Liaison Rhea, your presence is required on Nexus 7 for a high-stakes hearing before the Galactic Council," the message read. As they prepared for their journey, Dennis couldn't shake a sense of foreboding. "I don't like this, Rhea," he confided as they boarded the sleek interstellar shuttle. "It feels like we're being called to the principal's office." Rhea's skin pulsed with a pattern that Dennis had come to recognize as concern. "We've done nothing wrong, Dennis. We'll face this together." Their journey was uneventful until they entered the Nexus system. Without warning, alarms blared throughout the shuttle. Dennis rushed to the cockpit, where the pilot's holographic interface showed multiple unidentified vessels converging on their position. "Xenophobic human militants," the pilot reported, her voice tense. "They're attempting to disable our engines." The shuttle rocked violently as energy blasts impacted its shields. Dennis grabbed a nearby weapons locker, tossing a pulse rifle to Rhea. "Looks like we'll have to fight our way out of this one," he said grimly. For the next harrowing minutes, Dennis and Rhea worked in perfect sync. He piloted the shuttle through a series of evasive maneuvers, while she manned the defense systems, picking off the attacking ships one by one. Their shared adrenaline and the thrill of combat deepened their bond in ways neither had anticipated. As the last attacker retreated, Dennis slumped in his seat, exhausted but alive. Rhea placed a comforting hand on his shoulder, her touch sending a shiver down his spine. "We make a good team," she said softly. Their arrival on Nexus 7 was met with a mix of relief and suspicion. News of the ambush had preceded them, and security was tight as they were escorted to the council chambers. The familiar Grand Hall now felt oppressive, with the weight of judgment hanging heavy in the air. The Supreme Arbiter's exosuit hummed to life as the hearing began. "Ambassador Walker, Liaison Rhea, you stand before us to address concerns about recent events on Earth and your personal relationship." Dennis felt a knot form in his stomach as he realized the true nature of this hearing. He glanced at Rhea, whose bioluminescent patterns betrayed her own anxiety. "We have received reports of Dr. Emily Chen's research into human Voxari genetic compatibility," a Zarkoth counselor intoned. "This discovery raises serious questions about the potential consequences for both our species." As the counselors peppered them with questions, Dennis found himself on the defensive. He argued passionately for the benefits of interspecies cooperation, citing their recent victory over the militant attackers as proof of what humans and aliens could accomplish together. Just as the tide seemed to be turning against them, a hush fell over the chamber. Dennis turned to see a sight that made his breath catch in his throat. The Zarkoth, revered by the Voxari and rarely seen in public, glided into the room. Its crystalline form pulsed with an otherworldly light as it approached Dennis and Rhea. Without speaking, it extended a tendril towards them, its surface shimmering with complex patterns. Dennis felt a strange sensation wash over him, as if the Zarkoth was peering into his very soul. After what seemed like an eternity, the Zarkoth withdrew. It turned to the council, its voice resonating in their minds. "This union is not to be feared, but embraced. It holds the key to a future we have long sought." The chamber erupted in murmurs of shock and disbelief. Dennis and Rhea stood frozen, unsure of what had just transpired. As the council members argued among themselves, Dennis couldn't shake the feeling that their lives had just changed irrevocably. Hours later, as they waited for the council's decision, Dennis received an urgent message from Dr. Chen. "Ambassador, I've made a breakthrough," her holographic form said excitedly. "The combination of human and Voxari DNA, it's incredible. We're looking at potential offspring with enhanced regeneration, heightened empathy. The possibilities are endless." Before Dennis could fully process this information, the council chambers reopened. The Supreme Arbiter's voice rang out, delivering a verdict that would reshape the galaxy. In light of recent events and divine intervention, the Arbiter said, glancing at the Zarkoth, we have reached a decision. Earth's probationary status will continue, but with new conditions. Dennis held his breath, feeling Rhea tense beside him. Ambassador Walker and Liaison Rhea, you are hereby assigned as co-leaders of a pioneering human-alien integration program. You will establish the first mixed-species settlement on a neutral planet. The weight of this responsibility settled on Dennis's shoulders as he listened to the details of their new mission. A diverse group of human and alien volunteers would join them, including Dr. Chen and her daughter Lily. As they boarded the ship bound for their new home, Dennis turned to Rhea. Are you ready for this? He asked, searching her luminous eyes. Rhea's skin pulsed with a pattern he now recognized as perseverance and affection. As long as we're together, she replied, taking his hand in hers. The ship's engines hummed to life, propelling them towards an uncertain future. As Nexus 7 receded behind them, Dennis couldn't help but wonder what challenges and discoveries awaited them on this bold new frontier. Venture. As the ship accelerated away from Nexus 7, neither Dennis nor Rhea could have anticipated the challenges that awaited them. Several days into their journey, alarms blared throughout the vessel. Dennis rushed to the bridge, Rhea close behind. The ship's captain, a seasoned Voxari named Galactic, was frantically manipulating the holographic controls. Ambassador Walker, we've encountered an uncharted spatial anomaly, Galactic reported, his bioluminescent patterns flashing urgently. It's interfering with our navigation systems. Dennis watched in horror as the ship's view screen displayed a swirling vortex of energy, pulling them inexorably closer. Can we plot a course around it? He asked, gripping the back of the captain's chair. Galactic shook his head. Negative. The anomaly's gravitational pull is too strong. We're being forced into an emergency landing on the nearest habitable planet. The ship shuddered violently as it entered the planet's atmosphere. Dennis instinctively reached for Rhea, pulling her close as they braced for impact. With a deafening crash, the vessel plowed into the surface of the unknown world. When the dust settled, Dennis found himself sprawled on the floor of the bridge. He groaned, pushing himself up and scanning the room for Rhea. She was already on her feet, helping other crew members. Is everyone all right? Dennis called out, receiving a chorus of pained affirmatives. As the ship's emergency systems kicked in, Dennis and Rhea made their way outside to survey their surroundings. They gasped in unison at the alien landscape before them. Bioluminescent forests stretched as far as the eye could see, their ethereal glow pulsing in mesmerizing patterns. In the distance, crystalline mountains jutted into the sky, refracting the light of twin moons. It's beautiful, Rhea whispered, her own bioluminescence responding to the environment. Dennis nodded, but his mind was already racing with the challenges ahead. We need to establish a temporary settlement, he said. This ship isn't going anywhere anytime soon. Over the next few days, Dennis and Rhea worked tirelessly to organize the survivors. They set up teams to explore the surrounding area, construct shelters, and manage their dwindling resources. The mixed group of humans and aliens had to learn to work together in ways they never had before. Dr. Emily Chen quickly set up a makeshift medical bay, treating injuries sustained during the crash. Her expertise proved invaluable as she worked to adapt their limited supplies to the needs of various species. As Dennis oversaw the construction of a water filtration system, Commander Zaxivor approached him. The battle-scarred Voxari's exoskeletal plates gleamed in the alien sunlight. Ambassador, we need to discuss security, Zaxivor said. This planet may have indigenous life forms we're not prepared for. Dennis nodded grimly. Agreed. Can you put together a team? Mix of human and alien personnel? As Zaxivor moved to comply, Rhea joined them, her skin pulsing with excitement. Dennis, we've found something. You need to see this. She led Dennis and Zaxivor to the edge of the camp, where a small expedition team waited. They trekked through the luminous forest, the ground beneath their feet humming with strange energy. After an hour's journey, they crested a hill, and Dennis's jaw dropped. Before them stood an enormous structure, its architecture unlike anything he had ever seen. Sleek, curved lines intertwined with impossible angles. the entire building seeming to defy gravity. "It's some kind of ancient alien structure," Rhea explained, her voice filled with awe. "Far more advanced than anything in the known galaxy." As they approached the structure, Dennis felt a tingling sensation run through his body. He glanced at Rhea, seeing her bioluminescent patterns shift erratically. "Do you feel that?" he asked. Before she could respond, the ground beneath them trembled. A low hum emanated from the structure, growing in intensity. Suddenly, the air was filled with a cacophony of screeching alarms. "We've triggered something!" Zaxivor shouted over the noise. "Everyone, back to the camp!" As they ran, the earth shook violently. Dennis could hear the distant sound of rock slides from the crystalline mountains. Fear gripped him as he realized their makeshift colony was in danger. They burst into the clearing where they had made their camp, finding chaos. Colonists ran in panic as tremors threatened to topple their shelters. Dennis spotted Dr. Chen struggling to secure her medical supplies. "Rhea, help Dr. Chen," he called out. "Zaxivor, we need to evacuate everyone to higher ground." As they worked to move the colonists to safety, Dennis couldn't help but wonder what they had awakened in that ancient structure. Whatever it was, he knew their stay on this mysterious planet, which someone had dubbed Haven, was going to be far more challenging than they had ever imagined. The ground continued to shake beneath their feet as night fell on Haven, the bioluminescent forest casting an eerie glow over the frightened faces of the colonists. Dennis and Rhea exchanged a worried glance, both knowing that their greatest test of leadership was just beginning. The colonists huddled together on the higher ground, watching anxiously as the tremors slowly subsided. As dawn broke, casting an otherworldly glow across the alien landscape, Dennis surveyed the damage to their makeshift camp. Shelters lay in ruins, supplies scattered across the ground. He turned to Rhea, her bioluminescent patterns pulsing with concern. "We need to regroup and assess our situation," Dennis said, his voice carrying across the weary crowd. "Zaxivor, organize search parties. We need to account for everyone and salvage what we can." As the colonists began to move, following Zaxivor's efficient commands, a low hum filled the air. Dennis looked up to see a massive ship descending through the atmosphere, its sleek design unmistakably that of the Galactic Council. "It's a rescue ship," Rhea breathed, relief evident in her voice. But as the ship touched down on the outskirts of their camp, Dennis felt a twinge of uncertainty. The arrival of the rescue ship meant a choice, one that would shape the future of their fledgling community. Over the next few days, intense debates raged among the colonists. Some argued for an immediate return to the safety and comfort of their known worlds. Others, inspired by the beauty and mystery of Haven, advocated for staying and building a new life. Dennis and Rhea found themselves at the center of these discussions, their own experiences shaping their perspective. As they stood before the assembled colonists, Dennis felt the weight of their decision. "We've been given an unprecedented opportunity," he began, his voice carrying across the crowd. "A chance to build something truly unique. A society where humans and aliens work together as equals, free from the prejudices that have held us back." Rhea stepped forward, her skin pulsing with dedication. "This planet, Haven, has already changed us. We've faced challenges together and grown stronger for it. We have a chance to create a future that embraces the best of all our cultures." Their words resonated with many of the colonists. When the final vote was tallied, the majority chose to remain on Haven. The rescue ship departed, leaving behind essential supplies and communication equipment to maintain contact with the wider galactic community. With their decision made, the colony entered a new phase of development. Dennis and Rhea, now co-leaders of the Haven colony, threw themselves into the task of establishing a functioning government structure that represented both human and alien interests equally. As weeks turned into months, the colony began to take shape. The bioluminescent forest provided a wealth of resources, and the colonists learned to work with the unique environment rather than against it. Dr. Chen's medical facility became a hub of activity, not only treating the day-to-day needs of the colonists, but also preparing for an event that would change everything. Rhea's pregnancy, the first human Voxeri hybrid, progressed rapidly. Her body began to change in ways that amazed and sometimes alarmed the colonists. Her bioluminescent patterns grew more vibrant, pulsing in sync with the energy emissions from the alien artifacts they had discovered. One evening, as Dennis and Rhea walked along the edge of the crystalline mountains, she suddenly gasped and clutched his arm. "Dennis," she whispered, her eyes wide, "I can feel them. All of them." "What do you mean?" he asked, concern etching his features. "The colonists," Rhea explained, her skin rippling with complex patterns. "I can sense their emotions, their thoughts. It's like a symphony in my mind." This newfound empathic ability both fascinated and worried the colonists. Dr. Chen worked tirelessly to monitor Rhea's condition, her scientific curiosity tempered by genuine concern for her friend. Meanwhile, the exploration of the ancient alien structure continued. Commander Zaxavor led a team into a vast underground complex beneath the crystalline mountains. What they found there stunned even the most seasoned xenoarchaeologists among them. "It's incredible," Dr. Chen reported to Dennis and Rhea, her eyes shining with excitement. "The technology we've uncovered, it appears to be capable of manipulating genetic material on a fundamental level. We think the ancient civilization might have been conducting experiments in interspecies hybridization." As they digested this information, alarms blared throughout the colony. A massive storm system, unlike anything they had encountered before, was bearing down on their settlement. Dennis and Rhea sprang into action, coordinating efforts to reinforce structures and develop new technologies to withstand the harsh conditions. The storm raged for days, testing the limits of the colonists' ingenuity and purpose. As wind and rain lashed against their shelters, Dennis found himself constantly checking on Rhea, whose pregnancy had advanced to its final stages. It was in the midst of this chaos that Rhea went into labor. Dennis rushed her to the medical facility, his heart pounding as Dr. Chen and her team prepared for the unprecedented birth. Hours passed in a blur of pain and anticipation. Dennis held Rhea's hand throughout, marveling at her strength as she brought their child into the world. Finally, with a cry that seemed to cut through the storm outside, their son was born. As Dr. Chen placed the infant in Rhea's arms, the entire medical team fell silent in awe. The child, whom they named Orion, was a perfect blend of human and Voxari. His skin showed faint bioluminescent patterns, and his eyes held an otherworldly quality that captivated everyone who saw him. Dennis gazed at his son, overwhelmed by a love he had never experienced before. As he looked from Orion to Rhea, he knew that their lives, and the future of the entire galaxy, would never be the same. Outside, the storm began to subside, revealing a breathtaking double sunrise over the crystalline mountains. It was a new dawn for Haven, and for the brave souls who had chosen to make this alien world their home. Home. As the years passed, Haven flourished under the leadership of Dennis and Rhea. The colony grew from a makeshift settlement into a thriving community, where humans and aliens worked side by side, their differences celebrated rather than feared. At the heart of this transformation was Orion, the son of Dennis and Rhea. From his earliest days, it was clear that he was no ordinary child. His skin glowed with intricate bioluminescent patterns, a perfect blend of his parents' genetic heritage. But it was his eyes that truly captivated everyone. They seemed to hold the wisdom of ages, despite his young years. As Orion grew, his unique abilities became increasingly apparent. He displayed an uncanny empathy, able to sense the emotions of those around him with startling accuracy. More remarkably, he showed a natural aptitude for communicating with various alien species, bridging language barriers with ease. One sunny afternoon, when Orion was 5 years old, Dennis watched in amazement as his son conversed fluently with a group of Voxari youngsters, their exoskeletal plates gleaming in the light of Haven's twin suns. "How does he do that?" Dennis murmured to Rhea, who stood beside him. Rhea's skin pulsed with pride. "He's a child of two worlds, Dennis. He embodies the best of both." Their moment of reflection was interrupted by the sudden appearance of Dr. Emily Chen, her face flushed with excitement. "Dennis, Rhea, you need to see this," she said, gesturing for them to follow her to the research facility. Inside, holographic displays showcased the latest findings from Haven's unique environment. Dr. Chen pointed to a series of complex genetic models. "We've made a breakthrough," she explained. "The conditions on Haven, combined with the technology we've salvaged from the ancient structures, have accelerated positive genetic adaptations in both humans and aliens. We're evolving at an unprecedented rate. As they digested this information, alarms began to sound throughout the colony. Dennis rushed to the command center, where Commander Zach Savor was coordinating a flurry of activity. "What's happening?" Dennis demanded. Zach Savor's exoskeletal plates clicked with tension. "We've received a transmission from the Galactic Council. They're sending a delegation to Haven, led by the Supreme Arbiter himself." The news sent shockwaves through the colony. For 5 years, they had developed largely in isolation, with only sporadic communication with the wider galactic community. Now they would be under intense scrutiny. As the day of the delegation's arrival approached, Haven buzzed with activity. The colony's achievements were prepared for display, from their advances in interspecies medicine to their breakthroughs in sustainable energy production. When the Galactic Council's ship descended through Haven's atmosphere, Dennis and Rhea stood at the forefront of the welcoming committee, Orion between them. The Supreme Arbiter emerged, flanked by a diverse group of alien dignitaries, including a contingent of Voxari religious leaders. Among the delegation was a familiar face, Lily Chen, now a young woman whose childhood encounter with the Zarkoth had set this entire chain of events in motion. Her eyes widened as she took in the transformed landscape of Haven. The delegation toured the colony, marveling at the harmonious coexistence of humans and aliens. They witnessed the advanced technology derived from the ancient artifacts, now seamlessly integrated into everyday life. The climax of the visit came when Orion was formally introduced to the delegation. The young boy stepped forward, his presence commanding attention despite his small stature. Suddenly, the air seemed to shimmer around Orion. Those present felt a gentle pressure in their minds, and then, in a breathtaking moment, they found themselves connected. Emotions, memories, and sensations flowed freely between all present, transcending the barriers of species and language. Gasps of wonder echoed through the gathering as they experienced this profound moment of unity. The Supreme Arbiter, his usually stoic demeanor softened by awe, opened his mouth to speak. But before he could utter a word, a piercing alarm cut through the air. The ancient defense system, silent for millennia, had sprung to life. "What's happening?" Dennis shouted over the din. Dr. Chen, her fingers flying over a holographic display, paled. "An asteroid," she said, her voice tight with fear. "Massive. It's on a collision course with Haven." As panic began to spread, Orion stepped forward, his young face set with tenacity. He tugged on his father's sleeve, pointing towards the heart of the ancient alien complex. "We need to go there," he said, his voice carrying authority beyond his years. Without questioning, Dennis, Rhea, and the delegation followed Orion into the depths of the alien structure. They emerged into a vast chamber, dominated by a pulsing energy core that bathed everything in an otherworldly light. Orion approached the core, his hand outstretched. As his fingers made contact with the alien technology, the chamber came alive with swirling patterns of energy. Outside, the asteroid entered Haven's atmosphere, a fiery harbinger of destruction. But as it descended, a massive beam of energy erupted from the planet's surface, engulfing the deadly projectile. In a spectacular display of power, the asteroid dissolved into harmless stardust, raining down on Haven in a glittering cascade. As the danger passed, the gathered representatives of the galaxy's species turned to look at Orion, the young boy who had just saved an entire world. In that moment, they saw not just a child, but a symbol of what could be achieved when barriers between species were broken down. The Supreme Arbiter stepped forward, his voice resonating with conviction. "This day marks a turning point in galactic history," he declared. "Haven shall be recognized as a sovereign world, a model for the future of our shared society." A cheer went up from the assembled crowd, echoing through the ancient chamber. As the excitement settled, Dennis and Rhea exchanged a look of pride and wonder. Their son, born of two worlds, had opened the door to a future they had only dreamed of. But even as they celebrated this momentous occasion, new challenges loomed on the horizon. The power Orion had accessed was beyond anything they had encountered before, and its implications were yet to be fully understood. The journey ahead promised to be one of discovery, challenges, and unprecedented opportunities for galactic cooperation.
If you finish this story, please subscribe and like the video. Then leave a comment that says, "I liked the story," and I will heart every single one of them. It really helps me. Thank you for your time.